sometimes they were short-handed, and it would only be me and my dad. And I would literally be a little kid with a giant net while a normal person is catching a fish, trying to net their fish for them. So the holiday season when I was young was a real zoo because of the total number of families that was connected. So had like my dad's side of the family, then we had my mom's side of the family, and then we had those two people, and then we had my stepdad's side of the family. So, and my birthday is the day before Christmas. So this served to be, some people like my grandma kind of went out of their way to try to make it super separate, and my mom, but it really, with like everybody else, was a super convenience for them. It was happy birthday and Christmas. Holidays season was just such a nightmare. It would be like a multi-day, all day, one house to the next, opening presents, doing this like ritualistic thing. And over the years, I just got more and more kind of like, honestly, just disgusted with it, even at a young age, because it just seemed so fake and phony and forced. And it wasn't, I don't know, I just had this feeling from a very young age. Sure, I'd get excited and presents and free whatever, but I still just had this, that it was just kind of overall, I felt like it was a negative thing. Like, I don't understand why people don't live like that all the time. Eating good, hanging out with their families. Obviously you have your lives and all that stuff, but it seemed forced. I don't know. It's probably because family arrangement. Other people probably had different. They probably still love that stuff. I just want nothing to do with it personally. My birthday included. Breakdancing. Breakdancing was very big when I was in grade school. And I remember trying to breakdance quite a bit and having actually some luck with some of the moves. I remember going one day, we had this thing called the Saturday Market in downtown Portland, and we had the Portland Rose Festival. And when I was a kid, my parents owned a chain of restaurants. This would be my stepdad and my mother, and then another couple. So it was my stepdad, my mom, and then another husband and wife. And they owned restaurants that ended up getting up to like 5, I think, at their peak before they sold them off and got out of the business. They were Greek food restaurants, and they would also do a lot of fairs type stuff. So they'd have a booth at a fair, at the state fair. That's how in later years I would earn all my money that I needed to buy my school clothes. So one year I was down there working at the booth, which I was working in the booths, working for the family from, I think, maybe about 10 or something, working on a charter boat, baiting hooks, netting fish, gutting fish. I was doing that at like 6 or something, 7, 8. The year my dad took me out on the fishing boat, the year ended with there being a meeting of all the charter fishermen that ran all the boats for this company. So people would go to the coast, they'd want to go fishing, so they'd get on these boats, like 50 people on each boat, and they'd get taken out into the ocean, and you know, everything was provided for them. I think they had to bring their own food or something like that, maybe, because I don't remember there being a lot of food to eat around. I ate mustard sandwiches and cheese sandwiches that were just bread and mustard or bread and cheese. I remember that quite a bit. So I also remember being nauseated by the fucking diesel fumes. Every morning you got like 50 freaking huge boats, 50 footers, and they all got diesel engines, and they all turn them right on and just let them run, because they have to warm up, and they just let those engines run, and they just create this noxious cloud of diesel fumes that just linger over some days when there's no wind. It's just horrible. So I started working very young. Get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning with my dad and drive to the boat, and then I would get up in the cabin or in the driver's cabin, and I'd go to sleep until we were about ready to shove off. Then I had to get up, untie the boat, pull in the bumpers, stow the bumpers, and start to get bait ready, and you know, all this stuff, right? Tons of stuff. And I'm a little kid. There was another deckhand, right? Although sometimes there was not. Sometimes they were short-handed, and it would only be me and my dad. And I would literally be a little kid with a giant net while a normal person is catching a fish, trying to net their fish for them, right? So, needless to say, at this final meeting of the season, they actually, the boss actually singled my dad and me out. You're a little demon child. Let's stick with that theme, because it's just the easiest definition. And, you know, we can't, you know, you can't be back here, something to this effect, or you can't, your dad can't be back here anymore if you're with him, something to this effect, right? Yeah, apparently I was just, you know, running amok on the charter boats. I remember one time some old dude just grabbed me by the arm, and I have no recollection of what I was doing, but he just grabbed me by the arm and said, I paid a lot of money to be here, and something like that. And apparently I was disrupting his fishing trip somehow. Bad 6-year-old, 5 or 8, or however old I was. It's hard to determine those ages right now. So, again, you know, me being me, yeah, I was probably not 8. I was probably older than that. Yeah, this is probably after my dad got shot. So this is probably after the crazy Milk Creek middle grade school, possibly. Yeah, I probably was a little older than I'm actually thinking I was. 9 or 10 maybe. Yeah, I just always remember having to work at the houseboat moorage that I grew up on. There was one Sunday a month, there was a work day. So it was like an HOA, and everybody that lived there had to put in a day of labor on a Sunday once a month to just all kinds of stuff to do with the mortgage. I looked forward to that. That was like literally one of my happiest like work day. And then at the end of the day, it was a giant potluck. So there was people on the mortgage that weren't involved, and those people just had to pay extra if they didn't actually go do it. There was some real eccentric people that lived down on that mortgage that never really did anything. This one guy, he was literally our next door neighbor. Super eccentric dude. Every time I'd walk by him, he would recite some kind of poetry or have some kind of just like deep existential conversation to have with me. Yeah, it was really, and I mean, this guy was like on another level. He just sat in his house and read books. And I don't know how he had all the money in the world, but he had all the money he ever needed. So guys like him, you wouldn't see at work day. But the rest of the mortgage, like all the women, would be making these big potluck meals. And then all the men would be out working on and it might have been seasonal. It might have not been year round. I can't really remember. But we do things like, one of the biggest projects was like literally dredging the underneath the mortgage to clear out the silt that had accumulated there from forever. The mortgage actually owned its own dredge, and so getting ready to dredge, like a lot of these houseboats were held up by 55-gallon drums, metal ones, and they'd float those up underneath. Well, those didn't last long. It started with logs, so these houses are built on old growth logs that are probably, for their veneer, worth their weight in something. These logs are like as big around as this truck that float these houseboats. Some of them, the older ones. Some of the new ones, like the brand new ones, they have basements because they pour a concrete thing and that displaces the water like a boat. So it's a whole different deal nowadays, apparently. Then they moved to styrofoam, big, like 55-gallon barrel size chunks of styrofoam, and they would literally have divers with tanks that could pull those styrofoams underneath the water, and they would place them underneath the houses as they built bigger and bigger houses on these houses, or the logs got more and more waterlogged. They would have to augment the log floating with the styrofoam. First it was the 55-gallon barrels. Well, those rusted out, and they ended up just littering the floor. The floor of the Willamette River is basically shit and nasty, because the river has just been where the sewer system is dumped forever. Like, I remember every time it would rain heavy when I was a kid, in back behind those houseboats more, there would be syringes and condoms. That's what it's the trash that people flushed that floated would end up floating in behind our houseboat mortgage, right? So yeah, anyway, I swam in that river growing up, and I'll probably die from something that crawled into me back then, and I never quite killed, maybe. So we would get these barrels. This was like a work day. We would get this little boat, and like, I was a little kid, and I could jump on this workboat, turn it on, and just go do whatever I wanted to do with it. To the point of like, not like just going for tours on the boat, but I would take this thing and run it around and push docks around, and we'd jump in the water and find these barrels and then pull them up off the ground, up out of the water, and dispose of them so the head on the dredge wouldn't get all messed up by hitting the metal barrel.